Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Command Point. My name's Ryan. Today I'm here with Shane.
Hello.
And Shane, today we are going to be talking all about the Xenos factions in Kill Team. And what this video is going to be is it's going to be the first video in a series that's pretty much going to, I guess, like help newer players like pick out like their first faction.
I mean, as you get through this game and get into it, I encourage players to try a variety of factions. But I think I speak for a lot of people when I say that first team that you choose, it's like a big deal, right?
Yeah.
And it's going to be what you're sticking with for a little while at least until you start to branch out and understand the game more. And there's a lot of nuance and a lot of details that I think are important to know before you go out and you buy some box and commit yourself to all this hobbying and painting and playing this team. So we're going to try and go through each faction and explain why you might want to get into that faction if it's the right fit for you.
So, I guess starting off with the first Xenos faction in the compendium, let's take a look at the Craftworld kill teams.
Right. So Craftworld, they have access to, right now, they're only in the compendium. Obviously, eventually down the line, some of the stuff in this video, there's going to be factions that come out that we don't talk about because they're not out yet. But right now, Craftworld and Compendium have access to Guardian Defenders, Rangers, Storm Guardians, and Dire Avengers. So they've got quite a few different models that you can actually, like miniatures that you can play with relative to some of the other Compendium teams. Price-wise, I mean, it's probably like, I don't know exactly how many box or how many miniatures come in like a Guardian box, but I think you can hypothetically get a Craftworld kill team with one box, but ideally you're going to want to get some Dire Avengers, probably. As far as how they play, they're a very mobile team. They have a lot of tricks. They can kind of maneuver around the map. They're very like positional based, I would say. I wouldn't call them a horde. It is possible to get 10 models with them, but I think in the landscape of the game right now, 10 models isn't really like a pure horde. But it is quite a bit.
Yeah.
They're fast. They're not exactly the most hard-hitting models, or I guess faction. And as far as the competitiveness of the team, we just did a video very recently on our channel. We could put it on the screen, but it's they are probably the weakest faction right now in Kill Team.
Yeah.
So unless you are if you don't care about the competitive side of it, then perhaps the play style is interesting to you. Maybe you just like Eldar. But as a competitive choice, they're not the best. They're certainly not. I think every team in this game, though, is very much worth playing for somebody out there. There's not like a totally useless team.
Yeah, they're all playable for sure. So Drukhari are kind of like a mirror to the regular Eldar in almost every way. Both of these teams are fast moving, but the Commorite kill team actually has a lot of punch built into the witches and the Cabalite fire team with like the weapons and the abilities that they bring. You're only gonna need, in our opinion, if you want to build like an optimal Commorite roster right now, you'll need 2 boxes, that being the Cabalite box and the Witch box. Each one of those has 10 models in it. I think there's enough bodies and weapons to build all the fancy weapons that you need and have a full kill team.
Yeah, easily. And I mean, flavor-wise, Dark Eldar, Drukhari, whatever you want to call them, I mean, they're pretty cool, right? They have some pretty interesting, I guess, like from the lore perspective, they're a pretty interesting team. They're obviously, like you said, they're like the mirror to Craftworld. They have access in Kill Team right now to just the Cabalites and Witches, but like you said, that's all you need to get like a full optimal Commorite roster. Not exactly like the cheapest team, but probably on average, like what you'd expect to buy, like 2 boxes, $60 to $70.
Yeah.
Playstyle, they actually play quite similar to Craftworld. I will say the one, as far as their mobility and their ability to move around the board, the one thing I would give Commorites that Craftworld don't have, though, is pretty good melee capabilities with the Witch Fire team. They have access to some pretty strong melee models, so you can get a pretty balanced list in there of models that are fast, moving around the board, and also threatening your opponent rather than just playing the positional game. It is kind of a downside that they only do have access to those two types of models, just witches and Cablites. Hopefully in the future, we can anticipate more options for Commorites, but the team isn't exactly, I wouldn't say they feel limited.
No.
When you're playing them.
Yeah, I don't think they're really lacking in any sort of capacity. They have great ploys. They have enough bodies where you're going to be out activating a lot of these teams out here, especially the elite teams. And you bring the weapons that can punch through elite teams really well. So I think they're a good all-rounder.
And as far as the competitiveness, how would you say they fare?
I think this is a team that's very dependent on player skill, but they have a pretty high ceiling. I think they can get up there and they can compete and win tournaments.
Yeah, I think that unlike Craftworld, this is a team that a serious competitive player can take. I don't think they're one of the very strongest anymore, but they are quite strong, especially in the hands of a good player.
Do you think that they'd be difficult to run for a new player?
I would say probably. They especially at like a higher level. I think the one part about this game that is nice is that a lot of teams are fairly simple to play at like face value. It's when you start looking at the competitive angle and playing them really optimally is when I would say a team like Commorites is, I guess, quote unquote, harder to play.
All right, so rounding out the Eldar, we have the Harlequins, like the two prior teams that we had mentioned. High mobility, melee oriented, close range oriented, and they are what I would call a semi-horde. So they can only ever field like 8 models, I think it is. Yep. But each one of those models has a really hard punch to it in terms of its ranged and its melee capabilities.
Yeah, I will say that for starters, from like the flavor perspective, I don't know if you like clowns. This is your team.
Bring in the clowns.
Yeah, they the one thing unfortunate about this team from building it specifically is that the Harlequin box only comes with 6 models.
Oh, yes.
And the Harlequin kill team is 8 models. So unfortunately, you're going to have to get 2 boxes. But realistically, with the different weapon options and such, you're probably going to want at least 2 boxes anyway. Even though Harlequins only have 1 model, the player. There's a lot of different ways to equip each of your players, each of your gunners, your leader. So, and I think having different weapon options is the way that you're going to adapt to every matchup that you can possibly run into.
Yeah, magnetization might be an option with this team if you're so inclined as a hobbyist, if you're not afraid to do that.
Yeah. I would say that as far as the playstyle goes, you mentioned they're very highly mobile.
Yeah.
They hit like an elite team, but they fold like a horde team. They're very easy to kill once you're actually attacking them, but each one of your 8 models is capable of killing almost anything. They're very glass cannon-y, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
All of your models have 3 APL, so they almost feel like you're running elites, even though you get 8 bodies. They're one of the only teams that have the fly keyword, and they're the only team where every model can fly, at least for now. So they're by far the most mobile team in the game. They're extremely fast between having 3 APL and fly. They hit really hard, they die really easy, but they've got a lot of interesting ploys. So
I was just going to say that I think similar to the Drukhari, I think this is a team that has a skill floor that's a lot higher than some other teams.
For sure. I'd say from the competitive side, if not for Pathfinders, I think you could make a real argument for Harlequins being maybe the best team in the game right now. I think it's safe to say they're probably the best compendium team in the game, at least close with Talons of the Emperor. And if you are a serious competitive player, there's not a lot of teams that you can play that I think are better than Harlequins. So
Yeah.
definitely give them a thought. I will say though, if you're into playing a shooting team, Harlequins, they all can shoot, but it's only pistols. You're not going to get more than 6-inch range on these guys, so you're not playing anything with like a long range shooting threat with Harlequins. You're moving around a lot. If you are shooting, it's like hit and run style. You're going to be in melee a lot of the time as well. So that's pretty important to know, I think.
Yeah. So guys, that does it for all 3 of the Aeldari factions we have in Kill Team. Hopefully if you were curious about getting into Kill Team and starting with one of those 3 factions, that kind of gave you some starting information. And this will be the first in a series of videos that we're doing where we're going to be taking a look at every single Kill Team faction in the game and telling you guys what we think of it for like a Kill Team beginner, or somebody who just doesn't know a lot about the faction and is curious and wants some more information about it if they're thinking about starting that faction. So if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe. That way you don't miss out on any of those upcoming videos. If you really like what we're doing over here on Command Point, make sure to check out our Patreon, where we've got some Patreon exclusive content over there. Thank you all for watching, and we hope to see you again in the next one.